Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming to you guys with a tier list video ranking every TV show that I watched in 2024. Alright, so now that 2024 has come to a close, we're about a week off of it now. I did have a really busy time towards the end of the year, and so I didn't get to do my live Let's Talk Television show as much as I would like to, which I'll definitely be getting back to here in the new year, or really any other reviews, unfortunately. But I did spend the last couple weeks actually catching up on a few shows that I did want to check out, in order to rank them and to, talk about them in these end of the year videos. So this will be the first one I'm doing. This is also the first year I've ever done this because I did start doing tier list videos this year on the channel. So I thought this would be a fun way to talk about all of the shows that I watched this year in a format where I'm doing a tier list ranking. So yeah, I thought it would be a fun way to do this. The first time I'm doing it, so bear with me. But it should be, it should go well, and it should be some fun to put this together. But I will also be doing the videos that I've been doing for years now on the channel, and that will be my top 10 episodes video, top 5 TV shows video with some honorable mentions in there. So it's kind of more like a top 10, and then my most anticipated shows, which we already have a few coming that'll be on that in that video rather. Within a week or so, and Severance, a big one, season 2, is coming in like a week or 10 days from now. So that one will be fun to put together. Hopefully I can get that out before some of those other shows come out, so we can kind of look ahead there. But anyway, so in the next, week, hopefully 5 days or so, we'll get all those videos done, and I'll kind of talk about 2024, starting with this one, and then, like I said, with the most anticipated, we'll look forward to 2025, and then, like I said, we'll be going with Let's Talk Television, hopefully coming back weekly, a live show there, and I want to get some guests on too and talk to some other people, so hopefully that'll be fun. And then, of course, reviews, for stuff like Severance Season 2 and some other shows that are coming. So, yeah, we're looking forward to things. But first, let's look back on the year. So if you enjoy this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel as well. Would really appreciate that. Would love to hear your guys' thoughts, of course, from TV this year in 2024. I will say, overall, I thought this was a pretty disappointing year of TV. And what's interesting as well with doing this tier list video is because it was kind of a disappointing year, at least for me, it is actually kind of more fun though now, because I don't have a set of 2 or 3 shows that I know for sure are my top 3 TV shows of the year. I think even in this tier list video, I'll kind of discover a few things and might change my rankings just because I don't have shows that I know are top tier, like S tier shows, like I do usually, right? The past 4 or 5 years, I think it was, 4 or 5 years, we had Better Call Saul or Succession. And it turned out, actually, I don't think only like one time in the last 5 years did they actually both air a season together within the same calendar year. And so on the channel, basically my ranking of TV shows I saw each year was the Better Call Saul season was number 1, and then the Succession season was number 1 for that year. Same with The Righteous Gemstones. It's been up there the last few years, and we don't have any of those shows. This was the first year that we don't have a lot of those big returning shows that have been at the top of my list. So anyways, I thought it was kind of a disappointing year overall, but it does make for some fun, times here with ranking and talking about these shows, because we have a lot of new shows as well that'll be cracking these lists and my rankings here. So I'd love to hear from you guys what you thought of the year as a whole. Was it disappointing like my experience, or I've heard some people say it was like the best year of TV in a long time. So obviously, completely respect to that opinion and want to hear why it is the best if that's what you believe as well. So yeah, love to hear your guys' thoughts on that one. But anyways, without any further ado then, let's get into ranking my TV shows that I watched in 2024. All right, so here we are on the tier list that I, of course, created because I had to put, all the shows that I watched this year on here. So we've got every 2024 TV show I watched, and put together this tier list here. So these are the shows. I think there's 20 total shows on here, and I will admit, as I talk about them, I didn't get all the way through all of them, so that is certainly not a criteria is that I watched every single episode or every single minute of each of these shows, but of course I will talk about that when I talk about the show, how much I watched of it, maybe why I stopped watching, that kind of thing, and of course that'll probably play into the rating of it. So anyways, so there should be 20 shows here. We got the posters for all of them right down here, and I think this is in alphabetical order, so we'll roll with that. I think that's fine. It should be random enough where we don't have top heavy stuff or anything like that. So in terms of the tiers, like I said off the top, I thought this year was a little disappointing, and I'm gonna say it right now, I don't think that I really have an S tier show. I really don't. Like, when I think about this year, and again, we talk about this stuff, maybe I might change my mind, and looking back on one of these shows, I want to put it higher, but to me right now, thinking about it, I don't really think I have an S tier show. I don't think any of these shows or seasons of these shows would be kind of 5 out of 5 seasons to me. So I just kept it at A for now, no S tier. So A, B, C, D, and then an F. So we're skipping E. We're just going all the way to F. And this is reserved for shows that, were pretty disappointing to me. Or we're just kind of outright, bad, right? Which I don't think any, maybe 1 or 2 of the shows here were kind of bad. But even then, I think they still had some positives. So nothing like that. No dumpster fires or anything like that. But yeah, when I say disappointing, when I think about it, I do think of a lot of mid kind of shows this year for me. And so that's probably, where that C, B, D, I think a lot of stuff will fall in there. But anyways, 5 tiers should do us for 20 shows, so let's get into things then. Alright, so A Man in Full, starring Jeff Daniels. This was on Netflix. It was, I believe, a 6-episode miniseries based off the book. I think it was a book, and it was Tom Pelphrey as well. At least plays a big part in this first episode. I will admit I only watched, I think, the first episode of this. I did do a video at one point. It was around the summertime this one came out, I think, and I did kind of a series showdown is what I called it, the video, or that's kind of the title of it, and I want to do more of this as well, in the next year, do kind of more style of that video, but basically I took a look at this and 2 other shows on this list, which we'll get to, just the premieres of the shows, and just basically judged them on that, and then kind of had a showdown of which one I liked the most, and which one I would then go ahead and probably watch the rest of the season of, and the ones who didn't win, probably I wouldn't watch further, right? So, spoiler alert if you hadn't seen that video, of course, this one did not win, and yeah, I thought there was some style. I think it was Regina King, actually, who directed this episode, and it's David E. Kelley writing it, right? And so you definitely, right away, I felt that David E. Kelley writing, that kind and he does bring a lot to it. It does have that style of it, and Regina King with the direction. I remember this really interesting kind of circling shot, in this pilot or in this premiere. So there was some interesting stuff, but I don't know. It just didn't. It felt a little too cliche to me. And again, the David E. Kelley writing is a little melodramatic, right? And a lot of it, there was a lot of different kind of perspectives that I remember, right? And they didn't all kind of connect to me, and I'm sure they will probably as the series goes on if I watch more episodes. But it did feel a little disjointed in this one as well. But I thought Jeff Daniels was good. It was a little off-putting, though, the way that he was putting on this accent, where I was like, was that the best choice? I'm not sure. But anyways, A Man in Full. So I don't know. It's a little tougher to judge this one because I only saw that premiere episode. It was only 6 episodes, but I did actually look into it more about the book and the overall story here, and it does seem like they changed the story of the book quite a bit. Tom Pelphrey was definitely a highlight for me. I really liked him in this. So I don't know where I would put it. Just seeing the 1 episode, I think I'm going to go in the D tier. It just didn't, again, obviously I would have probably watched more if it did stand out more to me. So yeah, I mean, it's that's tough. Yeah, I think we'll go in the D tier for now with A Man in Full. It certainly wasn't, bad or anything. Maybe that's a little low. Okay, well, we'll maybe move it up to C tier later on, depending what the other shows in this list have. But we'll put it in D tier for now. Okay, so then the other A Man show this year that came out that I watched, and this one is maybe the most recent one I watched. I only watched this one like a few days ago. I was late to it. But I knew I wanted to watch it. I saw a lot of buzz about it when it was coming out, and I was looking forward to it, and then I missed it. So anyways, I went back and watched it. I think I watched about 4 episodes. I can't remember if there was 8 or 10 episodes of this first season of A Man on the Inside, but I think, so whatever it was, I got about halfway through the season here in the last few days. And I might watch more of it, to be honest. I might go back and finish the season, but as of now, as of this video, as of this ranking, I'm just judging, the first half that I saw. And I will say the first episode was kind of underwhelming to me. I really don't understand the choice where they made it kind of like the whole first episode is just setting up the actual premise and the actual story of the show. And it's only the second episode, which I think is the strongest out of any of the ones I did see, where he actually, like, the premise of he is on the inside of this nursing home, or I shouldn't say nursing home, it's kind of like a retirement home, right? It's a retirement home living, they're not necessarily receiving care, but some of them are, obviously, but yeah, it's a retirement home living kind of situation, right? And so he's basically now chosen as this mole, and it's based off this documentary, I think, right? The Mole Agent that won an Oscar or something like that a few years ago. And anyway, so Ted Danson obviously is starring. He's the mole in this retirement home. So just a really funny premise, and I think it's Michael Schur, the guy that wrote for The Office. I believe he did The Good Place and that stuff. I believe that's him. So anyways, some really big names, right? Having Ted Danson there, comedy royalty of the past, 5 decades or 6 decades at this point. He's just insane how much of a career he's had in so many good shows. And I really like him. I even like the series that he was in a couple years ago, Mr. Mayor, it was called, on network TV. I thought he was a really, really great kind of role in that really brought more to that show than there was. So yeah, I like the first half. Like I said, the first episode was kind of off-putting. I'm not a huge fan of his kind of relationship with his daughter in this. I feel like they play a little too much into that, and it takes away from more of the comedic elements. And I don't know, maybe that's kind of the whole heartbeat of the show, though, right? It's like the whole dynamic and the whole relationship with his daughter and becoming a little closer to her. That's kind of the themes that we're playing on here. However, to me, it just takes away from a lot of the comedy with him actually being the mole in this retirement home, and the kind of the shenanigans or the conflict that happens with him and the other inmates, if you will, but the people living there as the residents, right? So anyways, it does take away from that a little bit too much. It does have this kind of Netflix polish as well that I'm not a huge fan of these days. But overall, I think I would probably put in the C tier, right? This is kind of going along with a lot of these, with what I said about mid. This is kind of in that range to me. Like, it's kind of just in that kind of mid range where I think, again, this dynamics with the daughter, if it was just a little more in the background, maybe it could be a better show. Now, again, I've only seen about the first half of the season, so maybe it plays out a little better. And I was also intrigued by kind of the mystery. I thought it was pretty funny, and interesting, to see who is the one stealing the jewelry and all this stuff going on. So it was interesting. So it was a pretty popular show. I can see why a lot of people would really, really enjoy this, especially, obviously, I think the show's catering to try to get, an older crowd. If they're even on Netflix, but if they are, this is kind of a show for them a little bit more. And I think in that way, brilliant. I think a lot of the stuff, the mentions about, how kids are these days and technology and all this stuff, I think older people, like my parents and that kind of thing would relate to this and find it really, really great. So there is that element to it too. And Ted Danson, again, the perfect guy to be in this role and to play on that stuff. So really great job on Netflix for putting this one together with him. Okay, so so we'll stick it on the C tier for now. So Bad Monkey then on Apple TV Plus with Vince Vaughn. This was, I mean, I think I did a review, right, for the pilot episode or the first episode, and I can't remember if this one has been renewed now for season 2. I think it has. I think they've just announced recently, actually, that it was, renewed for a season 2. So I think they're doing a second season now for this. Again, I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty positive that just happened, within the last week or so. So I did a review for the first episode, and I think I watched about 3 or 4 episodes of this one, so I did not finish it all the way. If anything else, I mean, this is just worth watching for Vince Vaughn. As a big Vince Vaughn fan of all the comedies that he's done, even more his dramatic turns in something like Brawl in Cell Block 99, the S. Craig Zeller film for a few years ago, Dragged Across Concrete, another S. Craig Zeller film that he was in. He's just great. Like, I'm a huge Vince Vaughn fan. Obviously, like I said, the comedies like Wedding Crashers, Old School, the list goes on with a lot of those. So he's great, and he is so just vintage Vince Vaughn in this show, like almost too much, but I enjoyed it. But I could see why people would maybe be turned off if they were not big fans of Vince Vaughn, because he is so in his bag, right, if you will, in this show. And I feel like it was literally written for him. I know that said a lot, about, characters in shows and stuff, but there's no way that it either wasn't written just for him, specifically, or that he's doing a lot of improv and making up a lot of these lines, because, and I think it could be a combination of both, but anyways, he is just amazing in this, and he really, really leads it. Like, to me, a lot of the other parts of the show, I wasn't a huge fan of. The whole tone that they were going for with the narration it took me out of it a little bit, and I don't know, I feel like it was going a little too far with kind of the meta stuff that they were going into, and like literally, telling us that this is a mystery and the story is playing out and all this stuff. I could have done without that. I think it would have maybe been stronger without the whole narration going on. Again, this is kind of falling in the same category of as A Man on the Inside. It's just kind of mid to me, right? Like, Vince Vaughn is amazing in it. He's so great, and I love watching him in this, right? And this is Bill Lawrence, by the way, I think. From Ted Lasso, Shrinking. I think this is his work again, writing. So, you love Vince Vaughn in it, but everything else about it just kind of felt, I don't know. I didn't love the tone, and I could see why some people would, though. Again, if you're into kind of the meta mystery shows, it does add a different spin on it. It's a little unique, but I'm just not sure that it works for me in that same way. And a lot of the comedy, to me, was literally just from Vince Vaughn. I didn't get a lot of laughs out of the other elements of the show and the other side characters, which Vince Vaughn is ultimately the lead, but there are a lot of other side characters, and there's like a whole different POV going on as well, with one of the other characters. I forget his name now, but he's the one with the monkey right at the beginning. So anyways, mid. I think I gotta go mid with this one. A Man on the Inside or Bad Monkey, that's tough. I think I'm gonna go Man on the Inside over Bad Monkey for right now. Again, maybe that's kind of recency biased. I watched Bad Monkey back in, I think, the summer, or August or July or something like that. So, we'll put it like that for now. Or maybe Bad Monkey over it. Yeah, I don't know. We'll do that. I don't know. Those are kind of interchangeable, but it's right there in that mid tier with those. Okay, so next then is Constellation, and this is a really interesting one because, man, I watched this like in February, I think, or maybe the end of January, I want to say. Like, it was within the first 2 months of the year, and so I'm going to be honest, I don't remember a whole lot of this, and similar to these other ones, I only watched, I think, about 3 episodes. I think it was exactly 3 episodes of the show, and I really liked it. Like, I liked the kind of goal here. But then after the second episode, and then especially after the third episode, I kind of figured out, like, okay, they're kind of trying to do something like Dark, right? Where there's this mystery and we see these kind of images and these scenarios play out that make no sense to us, right? And we're trying to piece them together, and then each episode it just kind of does another one, and it's just like another one and another one and another one, right? It's like DJ Khaled or something, but it's just a series of these scenarios that make no sense, and just instead of providing any answers, though, it's just a lot more questions each time that we see it. And in something like Dark, and I haven't seen the whole show of Dark, but I've seen the first season of it. They have the answers, and they have, woven this whole thing. And so I feel like in that scenario, we do get some answers along the way that kind of keep us engaged and give us the confidence that, like, no, the writers actually know what they're doing and know what they're showing us. And it's going to make sense later, right? But we're going to be confused as fuck right now and have no idea what's going on, right? So anyways, the difference, though, to me is that this show wasn't really giving us any answers. It was almost just for the sake of giving us that shock and awe, moment, or that kind of confusion. It was like confusion for the sake of confusion, and there wasn't really any answers really being given. Now, it's kind of a weird thing to say because I didn't watch the rest of the season, but I felt like even just within those 3 episodes, they had to do more there to kind of keep you engaged, where they just didn't do enough for me. And you know what? I didn't really, maybe I'm mistaken, maybe I can't remember quite back to that. Like, this is almost literally a year ago now. But I didn't get, see a lot of buzz for the show. And this is exactly the type of show that you would expect some buzz for, right? Some discussion. It was kind of like that show where you want to get theories, you want to talk about it. And I didn't see a lot of that for this show. And maybe that was why, right? It was very confusing. It was trying to set that up, but it just wasn't giving enough answers along the way. And I will say the first episode, and that's why I watched 2 more episodes, is because the ending, I think, of that first episode is like, what the hell? And I really love that feeling, right? I love seeing that in Dark Season 1, and that's why I want to watch the rest of Dark, which I really have to do. Maybe this year I'll get to that. But anyways, I love that feeling, right? Of just sitting there like, what the hell just happened? And then right away wanting to click to the next episode or waiting a week to that next episode. And so I got that in this, but then again, like I said, episode 2 comes, we get even more of those moments, but no answers and nothing is really making sense. And then next episode, same thing happens, and we just keep going in this direction. So anyways, that was just disappointing to me. Numi Rapace is really good in the show, and I loved. Obviously, one of the main reasons I checked out was Jonathan Banks in a big role here, in a supporting role. And to be honest, I was a little disappointed. I don't think they gave him a whole lot to do in these first few episodes, which I would have liked to see a little more of. And I think the trailer kind of showed that he would have more to do. So maybe he does as the series goes on. I missed that, but anyways, so I think I'm going to put this in the D tier here, A Man in Full. I think I'm going to have to put it under The Man in Full. Visually, it looked very cool. A lot of the scenarios that played out were pretty cool. But yeah, I just needed more answers. I needed to be more engaged, and it looks like a lot of other people also had to be more engaged because the discussion was not around the show very much. And I'm really not sure if it got renewed or canceled or what happened to it. I think it maybe got canceled. I can't remember. But anyways. So, glad I checked it out, though, nonetheless. I really wanted to see it for Jonathan Banks, if nothing else. And I did get some of Jonathan Banks, which was great. Okay, so a very meaty one here to talk about. This is Daryl Dixon, Season 2, The Book of Carol, they call it. So this is, Walking Dead spinoff, right? And you'll have another one, of course, The Ones Who Live, with Rick and Michonne here. So, this one, I don't know. I really am debating on putting it in F tier because this is a show where they made some really frustrating decisions in this season here, and I talked about this in my live episode of Let's Talk Television. I talked all about season 2 and the problems that I had with it, specifically one death I talked about a lot, which was really dumb and really stupid. Really stupid, made no sense, and really disappointing for the direction of the show. We did have some nice moments with Carol and Daryl. We saw a different side of Daryl in this season that I did enjoy, but especially that finale episode was so strange. And the way that now, like season 3, they say they're going to Spain. The finale does not set that up at all. It just ends in a very weird place. The end of the last half of that finale is borderline laughable. Just so weird and so out there, and literally to me, it felt like we were just repeating the exact same scenario that we already saw in Dead City, less than a year before this. So that was weird as well. So yeah, just a very disappointing season of Daryl Dixon. My expectations were not that high, for it. It's not like I was devastated, that it wasn't that good. But yeah, it was certainly frustrating. Again, there were some positives in it, but seeing a different side of Daryl was kind of cool. Seeing Carol there, but not that great. Not that great. Now, of course, The Ones Who Live was better than this one. I also had some problems with that one. But yeah, I think I'm going to put it in F tier, actually. I think I am. I don't know. I don't think it's an F tier show because, as a Walking Dead fan, it's the main reason I'm still, watching these spin-offs and everything. So obviously I like seeing some of the stuff that's in here. The variant, the Super Walkers or whatever was kind of cool as well in this season. So yeah, there's some stuff I like. It's not really an F tier show, but since I have the tier there and I'm looking to put stuff in there, it was really disappointing. So we're going to put that there in F tier. Okay, so the next show is probably also going to join Daryl Dixon, and that is Dr. Odyssey. And this was on, I want to say ABC, right? I think so. This was the Ryan Murphy network. Kind of medical drama, right? It was kind of a spin on the medical drama, right? Where we got, it's kind of like a Love Boat reboot, if you will, kind of trying to capture that, it isn't a reboot, but it's trying to capture that kind of same tone there, but only have it in the form of a medical drama. And Joshua Jackson is starring in this, a big role for him, and I've seen him in Fringe, and I know he was in that Dawson's Creek show, I believe, as well. So really like him, and also Don Johnson, right? Don Johnson is also in this, which is very, to me, it's still a very strange casting that they put him in this show, and I thought he was actually pretty good. But anyways, so I watched the first 3 episodes of the show, I believe. I did a review for the pilot episode, along with episode 2, and I actually think I did the episode 3 review, but something happened with the recording, and I just didn't upload it. And then just from there, I just kind of fell off. After that happened, I was like, that's okay. I don't really need to do more episodes of this. And I thought episode 3 was easily the worst episode of the show. And to me, it was just okay. I'm not really, I'm not really interested in this. I'm just long term. I'm not going to really enjoy watching the show that much and covering it on the channel. So it's probably best that I just, kind of take off from it and leave it be. Now, I saw people hating this show and the pilot episode. People are just absolutely trashing it. And it's from Ryan Murphy. I don't know if I've said that yet, but it's Ryan Murphy behind it. And you definitely get the Ryan Murphy isms, if you will, with this show. Absolutely. There's just so much romance and sexual references and situations and love, people in love and people not in love, breaking up, a love triangle emerges. It's just insane, how fast things go. And so I saw some people hating this pilot episode, and honestly, I didn't hate it. I didn't think it was as bad as a lot of people said it was. And I thought episode 2 was actually quite a bit better than the pilot episode had to offer. But like I said, then episode 3 was just so into the Ryan Murphy-isms, and it was just a little too much for me at that point. So, yeah, I'm going to put this in F tier. I mean, if I'm being real, it was also a network show. I think it's like the only network show that I watched this year, which this year I'm going to try to watch some more network shows and just kind of keep a little engaged in that world of network TV still, because I don't want to forget about it entirely. Because I think there are still some valuable shows that are still coming from network these days. But anyways, it's a network show. It's the only one on this list. And so, quality-wise, it's not going to be as good as most of these others. And it certainly isn't, so I'll put it in F tier there. But yeah, I mean, again, still glad I checked it out. Like I said, I thought it was actually better than most people were saying it is, especially that episode 2. I think if you watched the pilot and you really didn't like it, I think if you watched episode 2 actually, that you would kind of like that a lot more. I think it's a lot less, sexualized and all this stuff. But episode 3 kind of goes back into that. So I don't know. Maybe that's the show. And again, I will say, people who are into the Ryan Murphy isms, like I've been saying, and, want to see kind of a fresh take on a medical drama, this is like a really good show for you, right? Like, I think a kind of a niche audience here really would love this show. But in terms of just the way it was marketed and having it on network, I don't know. And I said this in my reviews for it too, I just don't quite understand why it was even on network. Like, I could see some people, that are network TV watchers downright hating this because of all the sexual references and seeing it as kind of inappropriate to have on network TV. Because even some of obviously there's no nudity, no sex actually happening on screen. It's network TV. But a lot of the innuendos and things that are happening, I thought it'd be a much better show for a Hulu or something like that, where then you could actually just show everything and actually dive into that and create that type of show. So I just think the marketing was off here. I think you get Ryan Murphy to do that. You want that approach to a medical drama. Okay, take it on Hulu where you can do that stuff then. And don't, no holds barred then, right, on that. So anyways, those are just my thoughts. But probably the worst show, that I checked out this year, in the bottom of F tier there. Okay. So then we get to Fallout. This is an interesting one, and I was way late to this one. I think when did I watch this one? I want to say September or October, something like that. And I think it came out in April. Well, it does say on this poster, but it's way too small. But I think it's April or March. Maybe it came out in March. Anyways, it came out in the springtime about that. And I heard a lot of buzz about it. I saw Walton Goggins, who's probably my favorite actor working in TV today, maybe just in general, movies or TV. And so I, was interested in this, and Ella Purnell, of course, which you'll see in another show on this list later on. So I was interested in it at the time, and then I just kind of missed it and heard a lot of the buzz. And so I thought, okay, no, I got to go back and watch this because I don't want to miss out on this. Another show is Shogun from this year that it will not be on this list. I did not see an episode of it. Unfortunately, it was that and Fallout this year that I was like, okay, I missed 2 of the biggest shows this year. I have to get back and watch them. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to get to Shogun. Maybe in the next few weeks, I might catch up on that. But anyways, I did go back and watch Fallout. I did not finish the whole first season, though. I think I made it to about episode 6, I want to say. It was after the episode where, we go into, was it called The Past, I think? Or something like that, where we see Walton Goggins past a little bit. It was after the episode of the ghouls, right? Where we see a bunch of the ghouls happening and how he was turned, and we get a bit of the backstory for that. So around there, episode 5 or 6, something like that. And I thought the premiere episode was really impressive. It felt like a movie that I was watching. I really liked how they did the different perspectives and introducing us to the 3 main characters here with Maximus. What is Ella Purnell's character? I'm actually forgetting. Is it I want to say Jackie, but that's her Yellow Jackets character. So it's not Jackie, but anyways, her character, and then obviously Walton Goggins, the ghoul. And yeah, I just really loved, and even just the start of the episode, the opening sequence of like how the world actually, the fallout happens, and Walton Goggins, his actor, or him as an actor, Cooper Howard, right, and him at the beginning. I just thought that was a really impressive premiere and a really great way to start the series. I think it's directed by Jonathan Nolan, if I'm not mistaken, so obviously runs in the family there, and he did some great work on Westworld before it obviously went down the tank, to say the least, in the last couple seasons. But anyways, so yeah, really impressed with the premiere. And then episode 2, 3, and then we get into 4. I think I really like that episode about the ghouls, where she goes to that thing and the robot is almost about to cut her up in the room, and so she steals the vials for the ghoul, and I really like that episode. But a few of the episodes in there just kind of were falling into kind of the cliche territory to me, where I thought the first episode really, elevated that a little bit. A lot of the charm as well was really there in the early episodes, and then as I think it went on, it kind of lost that charm a bit to me and just became a little more cliche and a little bit more melodramatic. And it also seemed like some of these episodes, like, nothing was happening really. Like, we had like maybe 2 or 3, obviously plot lines of the episode, and within each plot line, like, very little actually happened, and yet it was like a 50 or 60 minute episode of television. So that to me was a little frustrating. I think it was a little unevenly paced at times through this. And I also, this isn't really a criticism of the show in itself, because obviously it's based off the video games and kind of the lore there. But I have some like confusion with the lore and everything that goes on. I have so many questions that I don't feel like the show really answered enough of. I feel like they could have done a better job of that. But again, it's kind of based off the video game, so maybe my criticism lies with the video game not explaining all of that. And obviously in a video game it probably works better. You don't have to know everything because it's a video game and you're playing along with these characters. So to me, though, as it transfers into a show, I would have liked to learn a little bit more about this lore. I felt like I was always at kind of an arm's length away from the lore and knowing everything that's happening. And I just would have liked to know a little more, about it somehow. I'm not sure how they would have done that, but I would have liked to know a little more. So anyways, I do plan on finishing it, eventually before season 2 comes out, because I do look forward to that. But yeah, overall, I love the premiere episode. Probably it'll be in my top 10 episodes of the year, I'm sure. It was one of my favorites of the year for sure. And some of the elements I thought were really great. Ella Purnell is obviously really great, and Walton Goggins is amazing as always in this role as the ghoul. So yeah, really positive things. So I'm going to put this, I think, in B tier after saying all of that. I don't think I would put it in A because I had some problems with it, and I do feel like I'm still at an arm's length from the world and the story here. However, like I said, a lot of positives about it. So I'm going to put it in B, and I think it'll be probably at the top of B by the time it's all said and done. Okay. So next then we have Franklin, and this again was one of the shows that was in the series Showdown video that I talked about before with A Man in Full. So it was A Man in Full, Franklin, and then Under the Bridge, which we'll talk about last, I guess. And so again, I watched just the premiere episode of the show, and spoiler alert, it did not win, and so I only checked out the premiere. Now, this was really confusing to me, this show, because they were obviously trying to do John Adams, right? The John Adams HBO miniseries. I think it was in 2008 it came out or something like that. Maybe even earlier than that, 2004. Something like that. But who plays John Adams? Paul Giamatti, right? Paul Giamatti plays John Adams in that series. And so now we're doing, Franklin, right? we're kind of switching gears, and again, we're doing another kind of perspective on, one of the early, founding fathers, right? That they're known by, right, with John Adams and Benjamin Franklin, right? And so we're doing another founding father. We're doing kind of his history, how he came to be, well known and well liked, and how he, saved America, right? In this case, in the Revolutionary War. And so it has all the makings right? And then you get a guy like Michael Douglas to play Benjamin Franklin, which I thought was really interesting. Obviously, a real meaty kind of role for him to go at. Timmy Van Patten, right, is directing now. And I mean, he's, if you look just at his filmography and the work that he's done over the past 2 decades or 3 decades now, I think it'd be hard to argue that he's not one of the best, if not the best, directors in TV, especially within the golden age of the last 20 years. So anyways, so you get Tim Van Patten directing this. I think he directs almost all the episodes, if not all of them. Michael Douglas is Benjamin Franklin. You're trying to recreate John Adams. And all of this just falls flat to me. Like, the whole concept or the whole premise of the show, I think, is flawed. You get him, and they kind of make the show more about him, and Noah Jupe plays, I think it's his nephew, right? And they make the whole show about this kind of like relationship or this connection that he builds with his nephew, right? Who he takes over to France with him, in order to convince the France to get involved in the war and ultimately help them defeat the British and, declare independence. Which is, what happens. Like that, obviously they're depicting the real history, the real events. And it is true, I think, that his nephew did go over, but the way, the whole show is, really centered around this relationship between his nephew and him, and a lot less on, the actual stuff that he's doing in France. And even then, the stuff that he's doing in France, it doesn't quite work the same as it did in the John Adams miniseries to me. I don't know, we know that he's gonna do it. We know that he gets France's approval and they get involved in the war, obviously. That's just history. We know what happens. And so the tension that they build and the stuff in this first episode here in the show is just very confusing to me. I don't know. It's we know they said yes, and the whole premise of the show is will he be able to convince the French, authorities of this? It's yeah, he will. Because he did. I don't know. And again, obviously any show or any movie that's based on a true story, we know the final, we know the ending. We know what happens. But I don't know. To me, it just, this show felt especially that way, where it was okay, we know what happens. It just didn't seem like they had a big enough story. And I think the show was eight episodes, I want to say. I think it was 8. So I can't imagine how they did 8 episodes of this concept and this premise of him trying to convince the French, who, and it also just feels like they were kind of receptive to it. They wanted to get involved. They obviously, he did important work. I don't want to diminish that, but it did seem like they could probably get involved even if he didn't go over there and try to, ask them for help. So anyways, just kind of weird to me that they would go with that premise to the show. I felt like they maybe could have just done a show more about his life and his other accomplishments, and maybe this part of it was a chapter in the show or something like that, where I felt like that was kind of the case that they did with John Adams, and I thought that worked a lot better. And the whole relationship with him and his nephew was just a little odd to me. I think Noah Jupe does a good job, but, I don't know. I thought that was a little weird, and it felt kind of flat to me. So anyways, just speaking from the first episode, of course, but yeah, I can't imagine 8 episodes of that and where it goes. I just can't imagine that. So I will say, though, visually speaking, commenting on Tim Van Patten, flawless work in this show. I mean, it looks amazing, and some of the direction, some of the shots that they get, the cinematography, all top tier, all great. So do want to praise that. But yeah, so I don't know if I would put it in F tier to me. I thought it was, it was fine. So maybe at the bottom of D tier then, maybe. Although it was kind of more, again, visually it was more appealing than Constellation, but no, I think we'll put it at the bottom of D tier for now, with Franklin there on HBO. All right, so the next is Hacks season 3 on the list here. So this was an interesting season of Hacks because I remember what was the video that I was doing and talking about it? Oh, right. So it was the ranking the tier list video, which I really enjoyed doing. One of my favorite videos probably that I've done. Looking back on every TV show that I have watched. And I think the requirement was that 2 seasons, right? So it was 2 seasons of a show, or if it was a limited series, just 1 season of every show that I've watched, right? And so there was like 65 or almost 70 shows on there or something. And Hacks, I think, was on there, right? Because I just finished 2 seasons of the show, and that's right. So during that video, I'd only seen the first 3 episodes of season 3, and I said in that video, I was like, I don't know, guys. Like, after the first 3 episodes here, like, this could be the best season of Hacks. And this could really catapult the show, because I think I put it in like one of the bottom tiers. And I said, if this season is like, if it remains on this level, like, this could really be a lot higher, like at least 2 tiers higher probably after season 3 airs. And unfortunately, it did not stick with that level. I thought it did kind of drop off. I do think it's probably the second best season of Hacks, though. I think it's more consistent than season 1. I think season 2 is still a better season, but there was some really kind of high points. I think there's one episode in here that'll probably be in my top 10 episodes video. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's called Par for the Course. Where they get some guest performances in there, and it just feels like a really big episode with a lot of, different jokes and bits, and then obviously you get guest performances from Christina Hendricks, Tony Goldwyn comes in there, and there's a few other actors too that are pretty big names, but anyways. So I really liked that episode. It was probably the best episode of the season. But there was just some other episodes where I felt like, damn, the start of them, like, this is a really good premise. Like, this could be really good. And then it just kind of fell flat. Like, it was just a little disappointing to me. There's specifically this one episode where they were, just Deborah and Hannah Einbinder's character, Ava, right? Ava and Deborah were like alone in the woods or something, and I'm like, this is brilliant. Like, this could be so good, just having the 2 of them bounce off each other, and especially the way that they were at that time in the season. It's like there's some great conflict that could happen here, and it just was like really underwhelming. That was one of my least favorite episodes of the season. It ended up. So, yeah, I don't know. I thought, again, with season 2, the way it ended, I thought the series could have just ended right there. I think they've decided now that season 4 is going to be the last season, but they have been renewed, so season 4 will be the last. And I really do think it could have ended at season 2. And I do think, like I said, the first 3 episodes I really liked. So I think they do a good job of reinventing things and kind of getting off the ground again with this season. But yeah, just overall, I thought there were some disappointing parts of it. But like I said, that one episode's really great. There's another episode, episode 3, that's really great. Seeing Deborah's daughter, was it DJ, I think, right? Yeah, Deborah Jr., right? And she does this like roast of Deborah, which is really, really funny. I really like that episode as well. And then we also get Jerry from Succession, right? J. Smith Cameron, who comes in and plays her sister. And so that's a really interesting dynamic we get this season. So, yeah, I mean, it was a good season of Hacks overall, but yeah, I was just disappointed because I was so high on the first 3 episodes of the season. I thought, damn, like, this is really good. This could be the best season, and then it just kind of petered out towards the end of it. And the finale, I thought, was also kind of, it felt a little out of place. It felt like they were trying to create something there that wasn't there, as just a source of conflict and now building to the next season, whereas I think season 2 did a great job because it just kind of ended in a really satisfying place. And it felt like a little desperate the way that they ended this season. So anyways, though, I would have to put this either at the top of C or the bottom of B to me for Hack Season 3. That's so tough. Okay, I think I'm going to put it at the bottom of B for now, because I do think it's it's quite a bit of a step up from Bad Monkey. This is, like I said, kind of the mid tier with these 2 tiers. and it was definitely better than mid. There were some really strong points in it. So, yeah, I'm going to put it in B for now, bottom of B. Okay, next up is House of the Dragon Season 2. What an interesting show or season of TV this year. Wow. So just by default, this has got to be in the top 2 tiers to me. I mean, you know, the first episode and the 4th episode, I believe, the kind of Rook's Rest, Rook's Rest, whole battle sequence there in episode 4 with the dragons, and spoiler alert, but you know, Rhaenys death right in that episode, just amazing, right? So those 2 episodes and certain points in the rest of the season here are just, you know, unparalleled in TV this year, at least from what I've seen. Like, maybe on this list, maybe it's only Fallout that comes close, and, you know, the next show too, probably, but that comes close to, like, this level of filmmaking, of, you know, cinematography, you know, and just everything, all the crafts, all the technical aspects of it that go into this. Also the writing and the character dynamics here, like, just really impressive stuff. Now, there's also the fact that this season, there's a lot of filler, and there was obviously stuff that went wrong here. You know, it seems like we're missing 2 episodes off the end of this season. I did a review also for the season where I went into my thoughts on this and kind of what happened here with this season and why it feels so incomplete. You know, like, this finale literally feels like an episode 8. And then we get 2 more episodes of the season, and instead we get nothing. And of course, we'll probably have to wait 2 years in order to see the first episode of season 3, where we actually get the payoff. So, yeah, obviously really disappointing, really frustrating the way it ends. And just a lot of the episodes in here, just, you know, especially Daemon's storyline, Matt Smith's character, just so disappointing. And, you know, episode after episode after episode of him just doing the same kind of things. Also with Corlys, some of the scenes with that too, like, just a lot of the season, it was kind of frustrating, especially Daemon's character and the whole plot line with that, of how the whole, like, they were setting up basically the whole season of, you know, will Daemon betray Rhaenyra, right? Will he go against her, or will he, you know, bend the knee, right? Bend the knee and you know, help her in the end. And to me, it's like, I knew the whole, I don't know, maybe this is like a, you know, hindsight thing to say, but I knew the whole time that Daemon was not going to betray Rhaenyra. I just didn't buy it at all throughout the season. And so that was really frustrating to me that, like, in the finale, yeah, he bends the knee. Like, I knew he would. Like, I don't know. I just felt like it was very artificial the way that they built up that whole plot line of the season, to where it ended exactly where I thought it would. So that was frustrating. And then the stuff with Rhaenyra and Alicent at times was kind of, you know, little off as well, and felt very odd, especially that one sequence where, like, Rhaenyra goes undercover and goes back to King's Landing. Like, that was, like, borderline took me out of it and was like, wow, like, what is going on here? Like, what are they doing? So anyways, but like I said off the top about it, yeah, I mean, the Rook's Rest, episode 4, is just amazing. The tension, just how invested I was in that, it was just insane. And honestly, I think that first episode is almost just as good. I think it's a really good first episode to start off the season. So, yeah, just by default, again, like, and how good season 1 was, too. Like, to me, I was kind of surprised by how good season 1 was. You know, it wasn't anything groundbreaking to me. Like, I have never seen anything like it before or anything, but it was really impressive for what it was. And so now, you know, the more time passes and thinking about season 2, it's like, yeah, this really doesn't compare to season 1, especially for the way that we went into it. I was expecting a lot more payoff, and then, like I said, it just ends 2 episodes early. So, yeah, frustrating stuff, but it's got to be high up for me. Like, it just has to be. So I'm thinking probably top of B tier for me. And maybe that's low. You know what? Yeah, but I did have some, I can't put it in A. I just can't put it in A, even though it probably deserves to be. You know, aspects of it certainly do, but I have to put it top of B for me, in terms of, like I said, with the negatives. Yeah, and like I said, when you compare it to season 1, oof. I mean, yeah, it's just weak in comparison to season 1 for sure. I do have high hopes though for season 3. I think season 3 has a chance to be significantly better and probably the best season of the show when it's all said and done, but we'll have to see for sure in probably 2 years from now, right, when we actually get to see it, of course. But anyways, that's a whole different conversation, which I've already touched on actually in my last live show, so check that out if you want to. All right. So next then is Masters of the Air, the limited series on Apple TV Plus. I don't know. I think this is definitely A tier for sure, and it might be my number 1 of the year. I still am kind of undecided on it, to be honest, but I think it's got to be at least in the top 3 for sure. So this is a follow-up to Band of Brothers and The Pacific, those 2 miniseries that are produced by Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks. And the writers, John Orloff, I think is the guy who's developed and the main writer for this miniseries, but he was also a part of the other 2 miniseries writing. And some of the other writers from those miniseries are also here as well, but I'm forgetting their names right now. I know Graham Yost was involved with one of them, but I don't think he's involved here. Anyways, so it's the weakest, right? It's the weakest of the 3 miniseries. Going into it, I knew, obviously, it wasn't going to be as good as Band of Brothers. To me, Band of Brothers is the best miniseries ever made. It's one of the best TV shows ever made, just in period. And so I knew it wasn't going to compare to that. But I did think it had a chance to rival The Pacific to me, because I do think The Pacific is a bit of a step down from Band of Brothers, and this is actually taking a more similar approach to Band of Brothers than it is The Pacific. It's a lot more of this kind of brotherly love, that kind of bonding, that dynamic, the kind of heroism, right, in war and that kind of thing. And The Pacific is very different. It's, kind of criticizing war and showing it in the Pacific theater, how much of a different experience and how much of a, traumatic thing that was. It really was not showing the heroism or the, glory of war at all. I mean, the whole point of the series was the opposite of that. So this is much more in the vein of Band of Brothers, but unfortunately, to me, it doesn't capture that same feeling. And I said I did a review for this as well, if you want to check it out. I checked this out in like January or something, so again, probably a year ago since I watched this, but it didn't capture that same feeling to me. Like, there was only a handful, and I mean like literally 2 or 3 characters maybe, probably just 2 actually, throughout the whole series that I like cared about and that I, wanted to see more of and had a connection to. Other than that, like, there wasn't, Band of Brothers has so many. I mean, you could probably count 10 characters in that show at least. And I say characters, but obviously they're based off the real people that, were there in the war. The real heroes, obviously. And these guys are too, largely in this series. But, those characters, like, I was so invested and so into so many of those characters and those people. And in this show, like, again, maybe you get 2 of them, and even then, like, the 2 of them are not on par with the ones that we get in Band of Brothers at all, to me. So yeah, there was, a little bit of that. That was definitely an issue in it. There is one episode, though, and this will certainly be in my top 10 episodes of the year video, where, we have the death, I'm not going to spoil it, I guess, but we have the death of one of the major characters, and to me, probably one of the best characters. Definitely one of the best performances from Barry Keoghan, and we have his death in it, and it's also just like an amazing, way of putting us in the shoes, if it's ever possible, right? Putting us in the shoes of these young men that were put in these planes in the, just up in the sky, floating in this piece of metal and being just barraged by, enemy fire. And basically, it's like a suicide mission, right? At least in that episode there at the time when they did not have air superiority. And so, yeah, it's just insane. It's heartbreaking. It's like so much tension. And you just feel so claustrophobic in the planes with them. So the direction there was flawless to me. The cinematography, everything, the effects, everything just felt really, really real. and really authentic. So that one episode is enough to me to probably put this in A tier anyways. So yeah, got to put it in A tier, and like I said, it might end up being number 1, but we'll have to see how the other shows fall here in this ranking. All right, so then next we have Parish. This was a show on AMC, I believe, or AMC Plus. I think it did air on AMC, actually. And this was starring Giancarlo Esposito, who was the massive draw for me, obviously. And this was actually in development. They went through a lot of trouble behind the scenes. And so this was actually supposed to come out in 2023, I believe. And then it got rolled over to 2024. And then we finally got a release date for it. And Bradley Whitford as well is also in this one. So I just really wanted to see this because I was so curious to see what Giancarlo Esposito could do in a leading role, right? Like, he had never been, at least I don't think, in a leading role like this in a TV show. I don't think so, right? Obviously, he's Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad, amazing as Gus Fring, and then he's been in Mandalorian, I think, and The Boys as well. And he's always playing this kind of same type of villain character, right? He's usually an antagonist, and so to see him in a lead role like this, I was just fascinated by it. Like, what is he gonna do? Like, how is he gonna do this, and what is he gonna bring to this? So I was just so curious to see it. And I have to say, like, he was really great in it. Don't get me wrong, he was really great. But I kind of wanted to see a little more. And the trailer, especially for the series, really teased, like, more from him than we got. And I will say I did not finish I think it was only 6 episodes the first season here. And I still don't know, actually, if it's been canceled or renewed. I still don't think they've announced yet if it has been renewed or canceled. So I think it's just still up in the air right now. But anyways, I did not finish the season entirely. But the trailer did show some scenes and some moments where I don't know, I thought, wow, like, this could be, Emmy worthy. Like, he really could be on that level in the show, in this lead role. And he was great, but I just never quite saw that, unfortunately. And it's not his fault. Like, I don't blame him at all. I just blame that I think the trailer kind of overhyped, or the editing of it maybe seemed a little more than what it was and what they gave him to do, right, with the series. And to be honest, that was really the main draw for me, was just seeing him and seeing what he could bring to this lead role. And the rest of it was kind of, okay, like, I'm along for the ride, I guess, but, it's fine. And so that's kind of what I went into it as, and I did get that. Like, I got a great performance from Giancarlo Esposito, saw a side of him that I'd never seen before, and so that was great. But the rest of it was just really painfully, like, mid to me. Like, just very surface level stuff. There was a lot of interesting, like, premises and themes that they brought out in this episode, especially in the premiere episode and the next couple episodes. They really did. Like, they brought out a lot of interesting stuff, but then, like, never went into it. Like, it was just always at this surface level where it's like, oh, he has a past, and, why does he, and I'm having trouble remembering it because this was like an April or May show or something like that. But there was stuff, about his past and, why he does the things that he does, and why he's, an upstanding man now versus him being in a criminal world before. And so there's a lot of interesting stuff that they could go at, and it just never seemed like they were interested in exploring it. Instead, they just kind of stuck to this surface level writing, where we didn't, get into any of those themes or any of those, stuff about his past and that stuff. So yeah, again, painfully mid. I think that's a great way to say it. He's great in it, though I did expect a little more from him in his performance. I don't think he's Emmy worthy, but he is great nonetheless. So I don't know. I think probably in the D tier here for Parish. The style of it was kind of cool as well. Yeah, that's true, actually. They did have some really interesting style in it with the cinematography. Now I'm kind of remembering the colors and stuff like that of it. Looked kind of cool. So, you know what? I might put it over A Man in Full, perhaps, in this D tier. I don't think I would quite put it in the C tier. So I think we're going to put it right here in the top of D there. I think there's just so much potential. And this is also why I would like to see a season 2. I would like to see it get renewed. Obviously, if not only just so that Giancarlo Esposito, gets some more work and we see more of him in this lead role, but also because there's just so much potential here to explore where, maybe a second season, maybe I missed at the end of the first season, they magically explored some stuff, which I doubt. But anyways, I just think there's a lot of potential with the show, and I don't think it was fully realized at all with this first season. And so, hopefully, if they got a chance again, maybe they could go more into that. But I don't know. We'll see, right? And again, maybe at this point it actually has been canceled. I haven't checked recently, but I know as of a month or two ago, I thought that it was still up in the air. Anyways. Okay, so what we do in the shadows, I think this is an A-tier show, just right off the hop. I actually did just finish this a few days ago as well, and I did kind of binge the last few episodes because I fell behind on them. And so this one is kind of a weird one to talk about because I'm not sure that I've had enough time with it to really form my full thoughts on it, but having said that, just seeing it in this field of shows, to me, it's pretty obviously in the A tier. And I really did think that it would probably be my number one show of the year, to be honest, going into it, especially the early episodes of the season. Although I think episode 1 was probably the weakest episode of the whole season, ironically. But then after that, 2, 3, 4, and 5 were good. And I don't know. To me, I think this season is probably one of the most consistent seasons of the show, and in that way, there's just a lot of great episodes. There's really good or great episodes in this season. There are very few, if any, bad episodes. I don't think there's any bad episodes this season. Every episode is just good, really good, or great, right? But there's not a single episode to me in this season that is wow or amazing or you know what I mean, that 5 out of 5, that next level episode, which we've come to expect from Shadows. Even the weakest season of the show to me, which is season 4, season 3 is in there too. Both of those seasons have at least 2 episodes in them where I'm wow, that's a 5 out of 5 episode. That's in my top 10 TV episodes video of the year. That's amazing. That is no other show, no other comedy on TV is doing that, right? And I don't think I got that in this season, which is very weird to me. I think it's literally the first season out of maybe 5 that came before this. This is season 6 of Shadows, that it doesn't have an episode like that. So again, those other seasons though, especially season 3 and 4, had a couple episodes that were, I would say, bad, right? Or ones that weren't really good. Or great, right? And this season is just so consistent. It's just so consistently good, so consistently great all the way through. And then, but there's just the highs are just not as high as some of the other seasons. So to me, it's hard to compare, though I will say just the consistency alone, I think I would rate this in probably number 3 if I was ranking all the seasons together. I'd probably go season 2, maybe season 5, and then this season maybe, or season 1, somewhere in there. So it's definitely one of the better seasons of What We Do in the Shadows. And also the finale, the series finale. Again, I am maybe 48 hours away or 20, less than 48 hours away from watching it. So I don't have a full kind of thought on it that I've really reflected that much, but I did really like it. I like the meta comments about it and not knowing how to end the show. And they went very meta with it, which I respected. I think that was really cool. I do think it could have been a little bit better, though, as a series finale. And really interesting because even within that series finale episode, they almost say through obviously the dialogue of the characters, but they're almost telling us that they kind of thought season 5 was the end of the show. And the way season 5 ends, very much could have been the series finale of the show. I think that would have been a really fitting end. And they literally say those words that, yeah, season 5 could have been a fitting end. Not exactly, but they basically say that, yeah, last season's show probably could have been the end of the show. And so I wonder if that actually is how they feel. And maybe that's why this season was just, and even the series finale was just kind of yeah, this is good or really great, but nothing is really standing out to me. Like, and maybe they just didn't have an idea that was so grand and so big for, any episode this season, and even then for the series finale. They thought, okay, well, we thought season 5 was pretty much the end, and we thought we kind of threw everything into that season, so we didn't have a lot left for this season, if we're being honest with you guys. And this is kind of what we came up with. And that's kind of how the series finale plays out and how it feels. But again, like, it was good. I really did like the meta commentary on it. So anyways, having said all that, I think I'm going to have to put it in the A tier, but I think I'm going to have to put it below Masters of the Air. I think for right now, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep it like that. But yeah, so, and obviously really bittersweet to see Shadows end, especially given the meta commentary that we get in the finale. It does seem like the writers and the team behind it were kind of ready to, say farewell to the show. It does feel like they kind of, at times, ran out of ideas, if you will, for the show. And, so I even agreed. Like, when I heard that season 6 was going to be the last season of the show, I'm like, yeah, that's fine. That's fair. That seems like a good idea, to be honest, at this point. Even though I love season 5, but yeah, that seems like a good idea. So it just seemed like the right time to end the show, and so it is bittersweet, but, certainly, a good season to end on for sure. Definitely not one of the worst ones. And, a fitting end to the show for sure, for Shadows. So definitely one of my favorites of the year for sure. Okay, so next we have Sugar, the Apple TV Plus series starring Colin Farrell. So this is an interesting one because I've only seen the first episode, be honest, right? I only watched the pilot, and I reviewed the pilot on the channel, which is so frustrating to me because I really loved the pilot. Like, the pilot was probably one of my favorite episodes of TV. Like, it might be in that top 10 TV episodes video, I'm not sure yet. But I just loved, I really liked it. I really did enjoy that first episode, and so I just really am frustrated at myself for not watching more of it. I think I was busy around that time anyways, and I kind of fell off of some other shows too, but I don't know. I really would like to go back and watch it, but I have read about this show that it is a very different show than what it seems in the pilot episode. And there's a massive twist. I'm not going to spoil it here because I don't want to spoil it for anybody else that hasn't seen the show. But yeah, there's apparently a massive, massive twist that happens, which actually makes it even more intriguing to me and makes me want to watch the rest of the show even more. So I really do plan on getting back to it at some point and watching the rest of it. And I do believe it's been renewed. I think it has been renewed for a season 2, and that was maybe somewhat recently as well. So I could be wrong on that, but I think it has been renewed. So if it has, definitely I'll be watching the rest of season 1 before season 2 comes out so I can catch up. But yeah, I just really loved this first episode. It felt original. The cinematography and the direction here was just really impressive. Just felt very, very interesting. A lot of the choices that they made felt really unique. But at the end of the day, I think one of the contributing factors to why I didn't watch the rest of the season is this is just really not my favorite genre, right? The kind of detective, I do like noirs, but just detective or spy, thriller, mystery, that to me is just one of my least favorite kind of subgenres, if you will, of TV or movies. Especially movies, I would say. So to me, it's just okay, yeah, it's an intriguing mystery. Okay. That's just kind of how I felt. It just wasn't, a show that I knew I would, get invested in like that. And so it kind of turned out that way. I didn't get that invested into it. But I did really love some of the stuff in the pilot episode. So I don't know. This is almost impossible to rank because now I know the twist happens in it. So I'm okay. It kind of becomes a whole different show from the show that I actually just saw in the first episode. So this is a tough one, but for right now, we're going to just rank the pilot episode, and it was honestly one of the better ones that I saw. I can't put it in B tier just because I've only seen the first episode. So, you know what? I think I'm going to put it in C tier somewhere here, and I think I'm going to put it over Bad Monkey. I think so. I think I'm going to put it over Bad Monkey. That's kind of comparable because I've seen, 3 episodes of Bad Monkey, I think, and 1. So, I don't know. It seems okay. We'll put it in the top of C tier. But really interesting will be when I finish the season eventually coming back to this ranking and seeing where I would put it, that is going to be very interesting because I have a feeling that it might end up in one of these tiers here, but we'll see. Okay, so the next is Sweet Pea, and this was a series on Stars, but I think it was on Sky Atlantic or something in the UK. And this one is starring Ella Purnell, so what a hell of a year she had with Fallout and this series. She is so great in this series. I really don't, and I know this is said a lot, and I probably said it a lot even in throughout the years, but I really don't know that anyone else could have played this role. I think she's just so perfect in the way that she plays this kind of innocence, this petite girl, right, you know, and then this kind of other side of her, right? And so she plays the side of where, yeah, no one would ever expect her or suspect her of doing the stuff that she does in the show, this other side of her. And yet you also kind of believe that she would do this as an audience when you watch her, the other side of her, and her commit murders, right? And in the other side of it, and almost become the serial killer, right? So just a masterful performance from Ella Purnell here. Also, you get a bit of that charm as well that you see in Fallout. You saw in Yellow Jackets, she was great as well with that. So yeah, she just brings so much to this, such a layered performance. And so I think she's just really, really great. This show was just like, it was really interesting to me, like really intriguing, the stuff that it was able to go into, right? So it's essentially like a dark comedy. I think there's a lot of drama in this. It's about a 45, 50-minute episode runtime. So it's not a typical, 30-minute comedy, and it's only 6 episodes, of course, being a British production, right? They're always 6 episodes or 4 episodes. But anyways, so it is a bit of a weird, kind of unconventional comedy, if you will. Like I think I still would put it in the comedy category, though, at the end of the day. But for being what it is, for being a dark comedy, and for ultimately at the end of the day, at least in my opinion, it goes for laughs. It is a comedy. It goes into a lot of deep themes, about, bullying, taking out, revenge on people. Even the main, central character of her, is she doing this for the good of society, for taking out people who, quote unquote, deserve to be killed or deserve for bad things to happen to them because they did bad things to other people? Or is it the fact that, no, she is a monster and she is, a troubled person, who has, these issues that have probably been, under the surface for a long time, right? And doing what she does, killing these people, actually brings, makes her feel alive. It brings this, something out of her that she's been, keeping in for so long. And it also, plays on the part where, is she a victim of trauma, right? In her childhood being, really harshly bullied for years and years, right? And having such a bad reaction to that. So, and obviously where she is in her life now. So honestly, like just a lot of deeper kind of themes that they go into here. I did a review for the series. I'm really happy with the way that review came out, actually, in, the way I was, able to articulate, probably a little better than I am now, with having, seen the show a little bit a couple months ago now, but, with the way I was able to articulate that and kind of my thoughts on it and my kind of theories of how the show plays out. So anyways, I do think, though, that unfortunately it did lose the plot a little bit. To me, the first 3 episodes are really intriguing, like really impressive stuff. And then episode like 4 and 5, to me, it almost becomes like a cliche kind of mystery show, where it kind of really departs from the tone that they were going for with that kind of Dexter. What else did I compare this to? Killing Eve, right? You definitely get the Killing Eve vibes. Promised Young Woman, even Taxi Driver, I think is a fair comparison to what goes on in the show. So they kind of depart from that, though, and then it just becomes kind of this cliche mystery, and then the finale kind of comes back together, and it's a very, very good ending. And this one actually, just within the last week, has been renewed for another season, so that's really awesome. And the way that they end the season could have been just the end of the series, but it also leaves the door open. So I'm really looking forward to what they'll do in season 2. So, yeah, to me, I think I'm going to put this in, I was maybe going to put it in A tier, but thinking about that of just how little inconsistent it was towards the end of the season there and kind of losing the plot a little bit, I think I'm going to have to put it in the B tier, unfortunately. But it was, I did really, really enjoy it for what it was. I do think also, it was, pretty funny at times as well. Over House of the Dragon, that's tough. I mean, I don't know. Do I put it in A tier? It was really good to me, but I don't know. Over House of the Dragon seems a little too much. Fallout, I would definitely put it over Fallout, though, I think. So, damn. Would I put it over? Oh, it's so tough. I don't know. I mean, House of the Dragon was disappointing to me, but I do really like Sweet Pea. I don't know. You know what? I think I'm going to put it in the top of B for now. I'm going to put it over House of the Dragon. And we'll see if I maybe need to add some more shows to A, then maybe we'll move things around there. Okay, so down to the last few shows here. Next is The Franchise on HBO, and this was the primetime comedy for HBO towards the end of the year here. A very meta show, right, poking fun at kind of the superhero genre and just blockbuster movie making as a whole, over the last decade or so. But the central studio of this is called Maximum Studios. It's obviously on HBO, made by Warner Brothers, who, you guessed it, owns the DC EU and all that stuff. And so, of course, the studio in this is called Maximum Studios. Yeah, Marvel Studios. You see the comparison. So, yeah, I mean, there's a whole kind of discussion about that of, is this really appropriate for them to poke fun directly at their competitors and all this stuff, for sure. But in the show itself, I was really intrigued by this. I thought this was really promising. I thought this had the potential to be easily one of my favorite shows of the year. Just because I'm, kind of in that wavelength where I'm not a fan of superhero movies and just kind of TV shows at all. I haven't really checked them out, especially Marvel movies, what they have to offer. Just not a fan personally. I get that, people are, and I respect that, but I'm just not that big of a fan at all of the genre. And so I think there's tons of room. And even for people who are fans of the movies and the universe right now, there's certainly lots of room for criticism and little pokes at the genre and at that type of movie making, and what goes into that. There's room for a lot of that, right? That even, fans of it would accept. And so I just thought there was so much potential for this. This is also from John Brown, one of the writers of Succession, who did multiple great episodes of the series of Succession in each season. So yeah, and Iannucci as well, is kind of a little bit of misinformation, right? He's very little involvement in it. He's a producer, but no writing credits or anything like that. Anyways, he's involved though. Sam Mendes also directs the pilot, which is so strange to me. But anyways, because he's literally directed, James Bond movies and, more of kind of the movies that they're talking about, in a way. So a little ironic, but anyways. I did think that, parts of the show were good. Parts of the show were funny. I'm not sure that it was really the deepest critique or the deepest satire that they could have done. I thought the pilot was really impressive. I really liked, I think it was the third episode, where they went into kind of the Me Too stuff and the female empowerment and how that goes into the kind of superhero formula of how they make the movies. And then episode 7 it was. The second last episode I thought was really funny. Perhaps the best episode of the series, just in the fact that, it was hilarious. It was just really well written. Satire aside, it was just a really funny episode of television. So that was easily kind of the strong suit for me. And then the finale was a little kind of underwhelming. And now it's been canceled. Just this week it was canceled, so we will not see another season of the franchise, at least on HBO, that is. So that was disappointing. I actually do really wish that I got another season. I think this had potential to be kind of a long-running show, but a lot of people didn't really like it. And I have to say I disagree with a lot of the criticism that I've seen of the show. I do disagree with it, though I will agree that, yeah, like it's not the deepest kind of, witty, satire out there about the genre. It is a lot of more surface level stuff. But at the end of the day, as a comedy, it serves up quite a few laughs to me, and I got quite a lot of enjoyment out of it and found it, pretty funny at times. Like I said, that episode 7, like that was one of the funniest episodes of TV I watched, and at the end of the day, it's a comedy. That's the goal of the show, right? So yeah, I think it could have been better. Again, it had the potential to be easily one of my favorites of the year. I feel like I was like the perfect crowd for this, and ready to kind of, dive into that satire. And I think the pilot kind of teased some really interesting stuff, but they never really got into it as much. So really great performances, by the way. I think it was Himesh Patel, Billy Magnuson, Richard E. Grant. Darren Goldstein is so great. So yeah, some amazing performances in this one that I didn't want to go without mentioning. So where would I put this one? I think I'd put it in the B tier. To be honest with you. And I think I would probably put it above Hacks, to be honest. Because I think I did get more, laughs and enjoyment out of this. Though, like Hacks, there are some episodes in here that I just, I was like, okay, I mean, this is just, like, it's not that great. That's tough. I mean, Hacks or the franchise. I think I'm going to put the franchise above Hacks. I don't think I'd put it over Fallout. I don't think it's quite on that level, but I think I'm going to put it above Hacks Season 3. That's tough. I mean, Hacks Season 3 is, obviously commenting on show business. They have some really good kind of meta elements in that. Okay. I'm going to put it below the Hacks Season 3 for now. We're going to put it there. Although, I don't know. I did get a lot of enjoyment out of it. Okay, we're going to put it above. We'll see where it ends up. Okay, so then we have The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, the Rick and Michonne spinoff. This is an interesting one. I feel like I'm a little more negative on this one than a lot of Walking Dead fans. Just the general, people who have seen it. Because, I don't know. Like, I thought, the first episode was pretty impressive. Episode 4, at least from a writing standpoint, is probably the deepest, we've ever gotten with these characters of Rick and Michonne in the history of the Walking Dead universe, like over 10 or so seasons of the show. So that was really great to see. The finale, though, of this show, I mean, almost like completely tanks the rest of the series, or the rest of the season for me. Really disappointing in how rushed it was, and especially the very end of it. Spoiler alert, when Rick goes back and meets Judith again, it just felt so unearned, so cheap to me. And to see that moment, as a result of the things that happened earlier in the finale and how rushed it is, and like I said, how cheap it feels, really turned me off. It really, really was kind of upsetting as, a longtime Walking Dead fan, and waiting, what was it, like literally 6 years, I think, right? Or 5 or 6 years since Rick left the show, and we were promised these movies originally, and then at least the story of Rick and Michonne and how they come together again and reunite. So having waited that long and then seeing that moment in that fashion was really kind of upsetting, really disappointing to me. But yeah, I mean, there's, other parts of it were impressive. I did really like the first episode. I do, obviously this to me should have been more than just 6 episodes. Like, it needed to be more than that. They should have done at least 2 seasons, maybe 3. But it does feel, especially now that we've seen it, that Andrew Lincoln and Denai Guerrera just were not down for that. They were only down to do 1 season, 6 episodes of a show, and then kind of move on with their lives and move on from Walking Dead. And that's just kind of the vibe that you get from watching the show and how rushed it feels. So unfortunately, that's what it is. But like I said, there was some strong points in it for sure. And that episode 4 was really a good one overall as an episode. Like, I don't think it's the greatest episode that we've ever seen of the universe or anything. But in terms of writing and the way that we explore kind of the mental state of these characters, that was unique. And that was something that we hadn't seen before. Or very rarely saw before. So anyways, where would I put The Ones Who Live? This is a tough one because it has some really like high points, but it was just very disappointing. A lot of these other shows I wasn't really like disappointed with because to me like they're just kind of mid, right? Mid shows. But this one I like actually am disappointed with. So there's a side to me that like wants to put it in this territory, but I know it doesn't deserve that, right? So I don't know. I mean, do I put it maybe at the bottom of C tier? Or top of D maybe. I don't know. Like again, it was just disappointing to me. Okay, you know what? I think I'm gonna put it in D for now, the top of D, because to me, like again, like a lot of these shows are just kind of mid, but this actually disappointed me, you know, in the way that the finale went. So we're gonna put it there in D tier for now. But yeah, you know, a complicated show to rank in this list. Okay, so then we have The Penguin on HBO, the series with Colin Farrell, of course, playing the Penguin from Matt Reeves' Batman, film from, what was it, 2022 or 2021 now? I can't remember, but anyways, I had seen that film, by the way. I did watch that, and so I did know, you know, a little bit of the backstory, though I'm sure, you know, you could watch the series without having seen that movie for sure, as well. And you know what? I only watched the first episode of The Penguin, I'll be honest. I did a pilot review for it on the channel, and I even think I said in that pilot review, like, I'm not sure that I have intentions on watching any more than this, and to be honest, I didn't really have intentions on watching it at all. Before I watched the pilot episode, so that was just kind of my thing. Again, like I just talked about, not a huge fan of the superhero genre. Of course, I am aware that, you know, Matt Reeves is the Batman, and this kind of version of it is very different from the typical superhero genre and movies that we see, more recently. I get that, but to me, it's still a little too much into that world where I'm just not a big fan of, but anyways, so I checked this one out, though. I was really curious to see, and I think it was the night of when the premiere released. I checked it out. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll throw this on. And I was really impressed, I will say, by this premiere. Just visually speaking, like the cinematography and just the technical work here was really impressive to me, especially that opening sequence of the episode. Like, I was just blown away. Like, I honestly was really impressed by it. But then there was some other parts to it that were just like, okay, I mean, it does feel like to me, what I think I said this in the review, but it was like, I really kind of wish that this show wasn't connected to the movie, The Batman, because there are certain aspects to this that feel kind of weird. Like, if you go with the canon of The Batman, right, why would, you know, the Penguin makes some of the decisions that he makes in this premiere episode to set up the story for the rest of the show? Like, to me, there was just kind of some inconsistencies there, and I think the show actually would function and would be even stronger if it was just a completely, you know, different, you know, a one-off story that wasn't related to the Batman at all, and, like, I don't know, it doesn't even necessarily have to be in Gotham, but just something, you know, in this kind of realm where, you know, you have this central character that does this stuff. You have, you know, a character like the Penguin, and it just plays out that way. And then you don't have those kind of consistencies where you have to call back to that show. And the main thing to me was, why would he work with this kid that he finds off the street? Like, that just doesn't seem consistent at all with the character that we saw in the movie, where he had henchmen, he had people that he trusted that he could work with. Why is he suddenly now working with this stranger, you know, young kid that he finds on the street? Again, maybe that's explained more. Maybe I'm just being a little ignorant, but I don't know. To me, that's just one of the things that I noticed in it that's like, okay, I just wish we didn't care about that. Like, I just wish that, okay, it would just make sense that it's this guy and he finds this kid. He's the only one he can trust right now. And so we go with the story, right? And that's just how it plays out. So anyways, that's just me with my kind of, thoughts and my expectations going into it. But I was really impressed with it for what it is and for what I was expecting. It was definitely better than what I was expecting. And I've heard, people who are fans of the Batman, bigger fans than me, obviously. This is like one of their favorite shows of the year, and I can definitely see why. Again, I think it's really impressive for those aspects, technical aspects and that stuff. And Colin Farrell is great. I will say though, it does feel like a little bit of a Tony Soprano kind of impression that he's doing at times, just with the way he looks and his mannerisms, and then obviously the way he talks. It does seem a little too much like Tony Soprano, but anyways, if that doesn't bother you, for sure. I mean, his performance is really impressive, and I think he just won the Golden Globe this week as well for his performance. So kudos to him. I love Colin Farrell, and he's great in Sugar as well. So the Penguin, I don't know. I mean, again, I've only seen the first episode of it, but it really did impress me quite a bit. So I think I would maybe put it maybe at the bottom of C tier here, probably in the realm of some of these shows here. A Man on the Inside. I mean, honestly, I kind of like it better than A Man on the Inside. Bad Monkey, I think it's maybe better than Bad Monkey, just overall. So you know what? We'll put it there in C tier. Again, if it was just a one-off story and didn't have connection to that, and we were seeing these callbacks and this kind of stuff, and it just functioned as a new TV show about a new character, a completely new story, I think this could have been one of my favorite shows of the year. But it's just that stuff that kind of brought it down to me. But anyways, that's just me. That's just my perspective. Okay, so second last then on the list is The Regime on HBO. This was starring Kate Winslet, and from what's his I'm forgetting his name, Will something. Anyways, but Will something, it'll come to me, but he is also a writer on Succession, and him and another writer also did the Menu movie as well from a couple years ago, which I really enjoyed. So this is a really fascinating one because to me, I think this is probably like a top 5 TV show of the year for me. But having said that, it also has like some really kind of glaring problems with it. Like, it's a very interesting, it's kind of like the Menu to me in a lot of ways. And I talk about this in my review. I did a review for The Regime as well, where I felt like the Menu, like the potential and just the idea, the concept, and some of the stuff that they play out in that movie is like brilliant. Like, it's just really smart, really effective. But then when you get to the end of the Menu and when you get to the end of The Regime, it's like it didn't all quite come together. Like, there's a lot of brilliant aspects to this and there's a lot of potential for this, but it just doesn't all come together at the end of the day. And that's what I felt about the Menu at the end of the film, even though I really enjoyed it. And same here. I really enjoyed this series of The Regime. Like, some of the stuff I really, really loved. But then other parts of it were just like, why? Like, what are we doing? Like, I don't know. Just so Matthias Schoenaerts, I want to give him a shout out because he is maybe as good or better than Kate Winslet in this show, and he doesn't get much attention. But he is unbelievable. He is so good in this show. And of course, Kate Winslet's great too. And so the first 3 episodes, I want to say, of this series are really good to me, like really great. And it's this turn that happens, I think, at the end of episode 3, and it just gets kind of weird and goes in this kind of weird direction, and then it kind of just tracks that way to the finale, where I like the end of the finale, but it's just like, I don't know, it just kind of felt disjointed to me, and they really honed in on the relationship between Kate Winslet and Matthias Schoenaerts' character, where I felt like, why? Like, especially in hindsight, thinking back about the show, like what they set up in the first few episodes of the show, it's like, yeah, this is brilliant. Like, the satire that they use, I think it was really funny. I think it was really effective. And then it's like the whole show just becomes focused on their relationship and this dynamic between the two. And yeah, it's just very strange. Like, again, really starts out with a really good concept, really promising, a lot of potential, and then just doesn't come together. So, having said that, I do really like the end of the finale, though. I think it brings it together and kind of saves it a little bit for me. But I do have to say as well, like, Alexander Desplat, his score for the series is unbelievable. Like, I love Desplat in a lot of the work he does with Wes Anderson, and he is so good in this. A lot of the production design, like, there's just so much. There is a lot of kind of Wes Anderson isms, if you will, in the show, and I think it's just masterfully done. So there's a lot of really strong, points about this show, and to me, that's the other thing. That's the other thing, is it's easily one of the most memorable shows that I watched this year. Is it perfect? Is it a 5-star, 5 out of 5 show? No, it definitely isn't. But it is one of the most memorable, unique, interesting, intriguing shows that I watched this year. I can easily say that. So for that reason, it's got to go in one of these top tiers. I don't think I'd put it in A just because, it doesn't come together and it just doesn't all, mesh that well together. But I don't know. Would I put it over Fallout? Probably, maybe over Fallout. House of the Dragon, doesn't come together either as well. But are the high points of House of the Dragon, higher than the Regime? Probably, right? And Fallout, does it come together quite as well as the Regime? I'm going to say yes, probably. So, you know what? I might put it here. And I'd probably put it over the franchise and Hacks, I think. I would. Right, when I put it over the franchise at times, I think it kind of comes together better than that. And Hacks, again, just my personal enjoyment, I would probably put it there in terms of that tier. So yeah, definitely, in my top, 6, that kind of level there. So what do we have? So we have 2. And then, So 6. So we have 8 shows here, and I think those would definitely be my kind of top 8, going into this one for sure. Okay, so last but not least is Under the Bridge. This was a Hulu limited series starring Riley Keough and Lily Gladstone, about the true story about this young girl who was murdered, and the suspects of the murder are, young teenage girls mainly, and one boy as well, that are her age. And I can't remember how old she is in it. I want to say 14 or something, or 15, really young, right? And the suspects are 14 or 15-year-old girls. And so what a fascinating story, right? I think it was in BC in Canada here. So a fascinating story that they're going with. Really great cast with Riley Keough and Lily Gladstone. Lily Gladstone coming off Killers of the Flower Moon, of course. So yeah, just really great, to see this. And again, this was the other show in that series showdown video. And spoiler alert, it did win that series showdown. I thought it was the best premiere episode and just had the most intriguing concept and direction to watch it. Now, having said all that, ironically, I did not finish the series, but I did watch some more episodes of it, while the other ones I only watched the first one. And I will say, I thought the writing here, especially the first episode, I feel like it kind of trails off. I think, I maybe watched 3 or 4 episodes of this. It does trail off after the first episode, but I thought the first episode, the writing felt authentic to me. When we were covering these teenage girls and the world that they live in, they were in this foster home, right? And, at a young age, I think they were 14 or 15, but they were, smoking cigarettes, doing drugs, and, they're young kids who shouldn't be involved in this, right? And so it's a really, sad, thing to see kids like this, troubled kids without a parent, or without a family, without a home, and going through this stuff. And so I just felt like it was a really authentic look at it. It's based off a book as well, but I thought I forget her name, but the one who developed the show did a great job. And just, I don't know, to me it felt very, again, it's I don't really know if it was authentic because I'd never been in that position, thankfully, but, I don't know. It just felt like it was going beyond the cliches of just, oh, these troublemaking rebel kids. Like, no, it actually showed us, why they do the things that they do. And it was actually interested in diving into, the mental health of these kids and the kind of situation that they are and kind of being victims of their situation or their environment, right? And it played very much into that theme of, why they did what they did in murdering this girl. So, I also think the direction is really strong in the first episode and the first few episodes. And I think it's just really, it's kind of this eerie kind of feeling, especially towards the end of that premiere. I think it's a really great sequence, really intriguing. And I think Lily Gladstone is a real standout. I mean, she's just really, really great in this series as well. And Riley Keough was good. She's a little more reserved, right? And that's just kind of the character that she's playing. So I don't think she shined as much, but she's good too. So yeah, I didn't finish the series, so I guess that does say a little bit about it. I probably would have finished it if I thought really, really highly of it. But yeah, just a fascinating true story, and I think the series does it justice in that way. But yeah, I mean, as the episodes went on, I think the first episode is undoubtedly the strongest, and as it went on, it did become a little cliche. I also felt like they could have probably had fewer episodes. I think that first episode maybe jumped the shark a little bit, and they could have, had a fewer, maybe 2 episodes less than what they had, because some of those episodes it was getting to be a little bit of filler to me. So anyways, where I would put this one, I think in this tier here of the C tier, would I put it over Bad Monkey? Probably, actually. I would probably put it over Bad Monkey. I would take Sugar over it, and I'd probably take, would I take The Penguin over it? That's tough. That's tough. Would I take The Penguin over Under the Bridge? I think so. I think I would, actually. I think I would take The Penguin over it. So we'll put it there in C tier and kind of what I've deemed the mid tier for this ranking. So anyways, that'll just about do it then for all the shows. Any changes I want to make? I don't think so. I think this is pretty good. I really did think I would have more shows in A. I mean, probably Sweet Pea I could move up to A, but I do have some issues with it, so, maybe we'll leave it there. But anyways, regardless, I think that's a really good top 2 tiers. I think, when I look back on the year, those are probably the ones that I enjoyed the most, that were my favorites, if you will, for sure. And, Masters of the Air at number 1. It's kind of a light number 1, because I said, this year was a little disappointing, but anyways, that'll do it for all the shows that I watched this year ranked. This year, in 2025, I'm hoping to have a few more shows for sure that I want to check out. I want to try to check out a lot of new shows, to kind of explore some of those, and some network shows as well, fit those in, so we have a little bit more diverse list of shows for this next year. But anyways, love to hear your guys' thoughts on my ranking here of all the shows that I watched in 2024. Love to hear your guys' thoughts on these shows, but also any of the shows that I didn't include, like Shogun. That's a big kind of discrepancy here for me. I do acknowledge that. I really should have watched that, and I do hope to watch that as season 2 comes, right? Eventually. So I'll probably catch up for that. But anyways, yeah. Love to hear from you guys, but that'll just about do it. Like I said off the top, my top 5 TV shows, top 10 TV episodes, and then my most anticipated shows for 2025. All those videos should be coming within the next week or so on the channel, so stay tuned for those if you're interested. But anyways, guys, that'll just about do it for this one. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you then in my next video.